Hello, you're watching VNA News and now headlines.
The Party Central Committee convenes its 14th meeting in Hanoi. Vietnam receives $12.25 billion in remittances last year. Lao Cai province strives to become Vietnam's biggest natural tourism hub.
The 14th meeting of the 11th Party Central Committee opened in Hanoi on January 11th, scheduled to discuss the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement and finalize personnel preparations for the next tenure.
As the Politburo is set to submit a report on preparations for the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement to the Party Central Committee, Party General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trọng asked the committee's members to scrutinize the negotiations' outcomes and analyze the trade deal's impacts. He told the participants to give opinions about the official signing of the trade agreement and the submission of the pact to the National Assembly for approval, adding that the design of implementation plans also needs a close look. Vietnam and 11 other Asian Pacific countries concluded negotiations on the TPP on October 5, 2015, after more than 5 years. The deal is a new generation free trade agreement with requirements much stricter than existing FTAs and covering both trade investment issues and related matters. Regarding personnel issues, following the outcomes of the two previous meetings of the Party Central Committee, the Subcommittee on Personnel and the Politburo are to propose additional special candidates who are members of the 11th Party Central Committee for positions in the Politburo and Party Secretariat in the 12th tenure. General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trọng requested the participants to thoroughly consider the Politburo's proposals and appraise and complete the 11th Party Central Committee's personnel-related report set to be submitted to the 12th National Party Congress, which will be held later this month. The party leader also asked for nominations to the 4 key leading positions in the 12th tenure. The 14th meeting is of critical importance as it will decide the final preparations for the 12th National Party Congress, the leader noted, demanding the participants' high sense of responsibility to fulfill the agenda.
The World Bank said the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement will provide economic impetus predominantly to Vietnam, Japan and Malaysia, among other parties, to the deal by 2030.
A global economic prospects report recently released by the World Bank Group said Vietnam will receive the biggest boost, nearly 10%, which is attributed to preferential access of its textiles and apparel industry to the US and other key markets. Malaysia's economy would get an 8% hike since its exporters would obtain an advantage over its regional rivals not participating in the world's largest trade deal, including Thailand, the Philippines and Indonesia, the report stated. Meanwhile, Japan would acquire a 2.7% surplus in economic growth by 2030, the research paper forecasted. A 12-nation TPP pact, the wording of which was agreed between the US, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and other Pacific Rim nations in October 2015, intends to deregulate trade among its signatories, which together make up 40% of the world economy. The details of the controversial free trade agreement have been revealed to the public after almost 7 years of discussions.
The amount of remittances sent by overseas Vietnamese to the homeland reached $12.25 billion in 2015, $0.25 billion higher than the figure of the previous year. More details coming up next.
Vietnam ranked 11th in the world and 3rd in Asia-Pacific region in terms of foreign remittances, behind China and the Philippines. Statistics from the State Committee for Overseas Vietnamese Affairs under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs showed that nearly 5 million Vietnamese are residing in 103 countries and territories around the world. Between 1993 and 2014, Vietnam received total remittances of about $96.66 billion, with an average amount of $4.4 billion per year. accounting for 6.8% of the country's gross domestic product over the period. The flow of remittances into Vietnam have increased about 22.4% annually in the past 2 decades, with an exception in 1997 and 2009, when the world's economies faced a financial crisis.
The Electricity of Vietnam Group led the domestic power market in 2015 by supplying 23,580 megawatt, or 60.8% of the country's total power output. More details in the following report.
The state-run group generated and purchased 668.5 million megawatt in the 2011 to 2015 period at an annual average growth of 10.37%. Retail electricity output rose by 10.84% annually over the past 5 years to 587.5 million megawatt, 1.85 times higher than the GDP growth rate in the same period. According to the National Power Transmission Corporation, the firm has mobilized over $624 million in funding for 44 projects in the reviewed year, including about $286 million from overseas investors. The figure has brought the total funds for its investment in over 200 projects over the last 5 years up to approximately $3.4 billion, 55% of which was sourced from foreign investment. It earned more than $647 million in revenue, up 34.7% from 2014, and $14 million in profits as targeted.
Vietnam is expected to gain $7.7 billion in wood and wooden product export this year, $0.6 billion higher than last year.
The Vietnam Wood and Forestry Products Association said export of wood and forestry products will have the advantage of starting operations through the ASEAN Economic Community and the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. Local enterprises have done good business with ASEAN partners for many years, so the community will create favorable conditions for them to develop further business in coming time. Meanwhile, TPP will also usher in opportunities for the domestic wooden product makers to have more legal wooden material for export processing because the TPP member countries have great potential for high-quality wooden materials with legal origins. That will create more opportunities for Vietnamese manufacturers to export their products to the EU and the US, where there is a high demand for licensed wooden products. In 2015, Vietnam posted $7.1 billion in wooden and forestry product exports, 8% higher than the previous year. The largest export markets of Vietnamese wooden products are the US, Japan, and China, accounting for 67% of the country's total export value.
The number of poor households in the Central Highlands has dropped to 8.5%, with the rate among ethnic groups standing at 18%.
The Steering Committee for the Central Highlands region reported over 35,000 households across the region escaped from poverty in 2015, representing a decrease of nearly 3%. The committee attributed these outcomes to a bundle of measures that aim to support locals in production, accommodation, vocational training, and job generation. Priorities have been given to poor and near-poor households, especially those in rural and ethnic minority-inhabited areas. In 2015, the Central Highlands created 101,000 stable jobs. Of note, newly established 2,417 businesses have offered jobs to tens of thousands of laborers. The region will continue to mobilize resources to implement solutions set for 2016 in order to reduce the poverty rate by 3% and the number of poor ethnic minority households at least 5%. The Central Highlands encompasses Đắk Lắk, Gia Lai, Kon Tum, Đắk Nông, and Lâm Đồng provinces.
The northern province of Lào Cai is expected to become Vietnam's biggest mountainous cultural and natural tourism hub. The target is set in its tourism master plan for the 2015 to 2020 with a vision to 2030.
Accordingly, the province strives to receive 4.5 million tourists a year, earning a total turnover of $818 million from tourism by 2020. The figures are to increase to 13 million tourists and $2.7 billion in turnover by 2030. Along with making full use of its advantages in natural resources and diverse cultural identities, the province will promote other tourism products including ecotourism, eco-cultural tourism, and spiritual tourism. The province has introduced several key solutions to obtain its target, including those on human resource, investment capital, promotion, technological scientific application, planning management, tourism development cooperation, and tourism environmental resource. Additionally, the province will work to attract visitors from key markets, both in and outside the country. Lào Cai will host the National Tourism Year in 2017, which is seen as an opportunity for the province and other northwestern localities to introduce their beautiful landscapes and unique cultural identities of ethnic groups in the region.
Lacquer and oil paintings featuring beautiful Vietnamese and Moroccan scenery and portraits of people on display at the Vietnam Museum of Ethnology in Hanoi. We went along to take a look.
This work was drawn by artist Daniel, the wife of the Moroccan ambassador to Vietnam. They include paintings on Vietnam's royal court music performance and Hanoi's temples and twists, and the Morocco's Kasbah of the Oudayas and Chelag heritage site.
Because I like your country, I like Vietnam. It's nice country for me, and good period here for my life when I stay in Vietnam.
The exhibition opens up more cooperation opportunities between the museum and foreign embassies in Vietnam, contributing to further introducing both world and Vietnamese cultures to domestic and foreign visitors. The exhibition will open to visitors until April 9.
A lychee tree in the northern province of Hải Dương has broken the record to become the oldest of its species in Vietnam. Now let's take a look.
Dating back almost 200 years ago, the tree was planted in Thủy Lâm Town, Thanh Sơn Commune, Thanh Hà District. Ancient documents said Hoàng Văn Cơm, a local villager, brought home 3 lychee seeds from a fest he attended in neighboring Hải Phòng city and planted them in his garden. All the seeds grew healthily, and one of them, which is now the oldest lychee tree in the country, turned out to produce delicious food. Cơm decided to clone the special tree. He took saplings and spread them across the village. Since then, lychee grown in the area, well known as Thanh Hà lychee, has gained popularity and become a local staple. Currently, Thanh Hà has more than 1,000 hectares of lychees under the VietGap standard. In 2015, it exported the fruit to the US, the EU, and Japan.
As many as 131 flower markets will be opened in Ho Chi Minh City to serve local residents and visitors during the Lunar New Year festival, which lasts from February 6th to 14th this year.
The city's 3 biggest markets will be located at September 23rd Park with 900 plots, Gia Định Park with 700 plots, and Lê Văn Tám Park with 400 plots. All the markets will offer flowers grown by gardeners in southern provinces and Ho Chi Minh City's suburban districts. Traditional flowers like roses, daisies, carnations, and marigolds are expected to be best seller this year. The flower markets are expected to attract thousands of florists and hundreds of thousands of buyers and visitors. Meanwhile, a road of flowers will be reorganized along Nguyễn Huệ Pedestrian Street from February 5th to 12th, and traditional flower festival at Tao Dan Park will be opened to visitors from February 3rd to 14th.
And that has wrapped up our news bulletin. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye for now.